everyone, welcome to a new video. This is my dream garden, the making of this artwork. I have been working on so many video projects, like digital projects lately. The whole video series that you all just watched of the Magical Musical Instruments collection. So I've been really itching to get into something a bit more flowery, plant-based again. I've also taken up a dormant hobby that was sitting there for many years, gardening, and I really wanted to make a little artwork about that, about some of my dream flowers that I want in my garden, some of the flowers that I am growing in my garden now. So yeah, that's what this little artwork is. And this is also the artwork for the November 2024 Patreon rewards. So for the month of November, if you sign up to my Patreon, you'll get a little double-sided mini print of this and one of 12 stickers from this set. I'm very excited about it. They look so good. Oh my god, the stickers are gonna be amazing. I'm gonna put them on literally everything. I started this way. I got some drawing paper. It's not necessarily good quality stuff. It's basically just plain paper, which I folded up into 12 equal segments. Nothing too precise. I didn't use my ruler. I just folded it by eye. So yeah, it is a bit wonky, which I kind of like. I work in chaos. I work with wonkiness and I make it a superpower. So yeah, so here I've just like gridded it all up, and then I'm using this really pale Prismacolor pencil, and I am just making a little border around each of the folds, because what I'm going to do is within each square there's going to be a different flower, and then there's going to be like a border around each one, so it kind of looks like patchwork quilt-ish, or some sort of like, I don't know, cute manuscript illustration type thing. You can see my sketchbook there. I have done a list of flowers that I like or have growing in my garden, and then I just went through and really quickly did a very simple design or illustration of each flower in my sketchbook, just using a really fine liner pen. So they're my references for when I'm drawing in each square. I did more than 12 drawings just in case I decided that the flow of one flower type doesn't work with the collection or whatever. Just like I had a couple of extra ones on standby just in case I didn't really think certain things fitted when I started illustrating them. You also just saw before really lightly sketching in each square. You can barely see it on the screen in front of you, but they're there. It's really faint. While it was good for me to have this little vague sketch, it was a bit annoying because the Tombow markers, which I use for the colors, they kind of didn't lay very nicely on top of this light green pencil for some reason. I think it's a bit of wax resist that's going on there. So in the very end, I can see a lot of lines of the pencil showing through the Tombow markers. Anyway, I'll get to how I combat that later on in the video. It was quite frustrating, but things happen and it's fine. And I really do like figuring out how to conquer mistakes or things that I didn't plan to happen. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, so I made sure to, when I was choosing each little flower for each little square, I made sure to not necessarily put similar shaped flowers next to each other, and not to put similar coloured flowers next to each other too much. So a yellow flower wouldn't necessarily sit next to another yellow flower. I'd put it up on a diagonal or on the other side of the sheet. A flower with the generic flower look, 5 petals or whatever, wouldn't necessarily go next to another flower with a similar kind of petal structure. I would put like a eucalyptus flower next to something like a cosmos, which has the typical petal flower look. So yeah, I was pretty mindful about the placement of all my flowers. I really like that. I like figuring out how flow and rhythm works within artworks and different shapes and how your eyes bounce around. Yeah, it can just look a little bit stifling or forced or not thought through if there are too many things with the same shape, tonal value, or like color next to each other, and then other things are around. It just, it feels a bit wrong for me in my body. so yeah, I do like to make sure that there's good flow and rhythm between shapes across my artworks. So I'm using Tombow markers for this piece. You all know how much I love Tombow markers. I actually got them several years ago and they sat unused for about 2-3 years. I don't know why. I just, sometimes you just get things and then you don't necessarily, you're not necessarily ready for them yet. So they sat there for a while until one day I cracked them out, and then my life was just filled with inspiration and sparkles, and I've been using Tombow markers nonstop for ages now. I took them traveling with me. I use them all the time in my sketchbook. They're just really fun to use, really pigmented. And I love layering with them. I love the variety of colors you can get with them. You can do some nice blending. You can just create any color you want just by layering smartly. So I did quite a lot of layering in this piece and back and forth, and I'll figure out that this one flower needs light line work in a slightly darker color, and instead of going for a green on green, I would choose the light purple, this super faint light purple, to go over the green of this nasturtium leaf, and it just comes up slightly darker green with a slight olivey look to it, which is so lovely. Yeah, and I kind of half made it up as I went along as well. I obviously had the base sketches of each flower there, but then I decided to add in these little sparkle motifs that I really love doing in my work, just dotted around inside the flowers. So as I started using my Tombow markers and filling in spaces, I would add in a little sparkle here and there if there was a bit of a blank space or a bit of a gap somewhere in each illustration. So I've been battling with overwork lately. It's tough because I'm an artist and I love art. I love making art. I love drawing. I love painting. I love doing stuff all the time that has to do with art. And it's also my job, so it just overlaps a lot, and my downtime isn't necessarily really my downtime because I end up just sharing it on Instagram or turning it into prints anyway if I decide to make an artwork that's just for me. Never works out that way. So I've been really wanting to get into gardening for several years. I used to do it a lot. But I rent, so it's really hard to start a garden and then in a year or two have to leave it behind and move, and all your hard work is you don't get to see it continue on. So I've been chatting with some friends over the last couple of months who are really into gardening, and they were you could just use grow bags and you can use planter boxes with wheels on it so you can take it wherever you go if you move house. And I was of course, why did I think of that? So I've gone out and I got myself a bunch of grow bags and some planter boxes and other big pots and stuff like that. And there is a section of my garden that I have cleaned up and weeded and planted some stuff in there, some sunflowers and things that really kind of only last one round, so that I can take their seeds and reuse them in other locations whenever I move. And it has been so fun and so nourishing, and I love putting my hands into dirt. I love playing with flowers. I love trimming. I love weeding. I love all of that so much. And it's been just so delicious to get into gardening again, even if it's just a small start for me. I'm already imagining what my future garden will be if I ever end up buying a house of my own. It's gonna have the best garden, you guys. It's gonna have the best garden. So some of the flowers that I have in my current garden feature in this little illustration, and some of them are ones that I really would like to plant one day. back to process of where we're at here. So at this point I have finished filling in each of the 12 illustrations across my page, and it looks super good. I'm really excited about it, very happy with it. And now I'm just going to go in and fill in the frame elements in between each flower, just with a little decoration moment in between each like conjoining square with these cute little 4-leaf flower clover things. And then within each line I break it up into 5 squares and fill them with sweet little pastel colors. And again, I try not to put too many of the same color on one line or in one chunk. Just trying to spread it out a bit. If there's like a particularly pink flower, I won't put as many pinkish squares around it, just not to overwhelm certain areas with certain tones or colors. So yeah, try to spread it out and be really mindful of where I place things. And I really enjoy this. It's like Sudoku for my brain in a way, just with colors and layout and rhythm and flow and that sort of thing. And with the dark background of each of the flower illustrations, I had to layer it 3 times because I wanted it to be really, really dark. And I didn't necessarily want to see any texture lines, marker lines. So a lot of these colors actually I did go over a couple of times to brighten them up or to remove texture lines, because yeah, it's just extra texture that I didn't really want. I wanted to go for something a little bit more flat with this illustration. And here it is, fully finished. Very exciting. I ended up getting out my scanner to give it a scan. I've got a Canon Lide, L-I-D-E 400, and I scan them super high res, like 1200 DPI, which is probably majorly overkill, but I wanted it to be able to be made into larger prints later. I wanted to make A3 sized prints, so I scanned it at a really high resolution. Then I brought it into Photoshop. I had a closer look, and here are the lines that I was talking about earlier with the pencil, the way the pencil shows through the marker, just the wax resist, I reckon it is. And some of the colors come out a bit weird. You have to do a little bit of color grading, a bit of color matching from scanner to computer, so I did that on Photoshop. And then I sent the file over to my Procreate, to my iPad for Procreate, which it's just easier to draw with. I have a tablet for my big computer, but there's nothing like drawing directly on the image. So yeah, I took it into Procreate and I used a nice kind of textured brush that feels a bit chalky, a bit like markers, but like has a bit of a chalkiness to it, so that it kind of blends into the texture of the paper that I used as well. And I just went through and I cleaned up the illustrations, I got rid of the pencil lines, and I just like made the colors a bit more flat, a bit more readable in some spots. So like the little sparkle here, it got quite dark, so I added a lighter green outline to it so it popped a bit more from the flower, from the background of the flower, and yeah, I think it looks much better. So here's a time lapse of it. It's pretty hard to see what I'm working on because there's a lot of just tiny little details, but this is a time lapse that's sped up like 800, no, it's like 1000% or something like that. I spent a long time cleaning this one up, getting up really close, fixing up all the details. Yeah, I spent so long on it that I gave myself repetitive strain injury in a really bad way, and I cried because I couldn't pick up my fork later that day to eat my dinner. So don't do that. Take rests. I just got super into it, super hyper fixated on it, and I had a lot of fun making it look nice. And my little BB, the greyhound, my old lady, came and shows support. It's really nice. The greyhounds are so lovely. They come whenever they want to have pats. They come and they go, pat me. They'll come and lean on me for a few minutes, and then I give them smooches and pats, and then they go to bed again. It's the best. So here's the process. There's the sketchbook filled with all the sketches. Very simple line work, some swatches of the tombos just to make sure I've got the right colours. There's my list of flowers I want, kind of a vague idea. And there is the original finished piece on paper, pretty crappy paper, Tombow markers. There it is there. And then this is my iPad with the cleaned up version. And color matched as well as I can. So yeah, the scanner just like removes a lot of pink and purple, so I had to put it back in and make it all look as good as I could. And then I did a A3 sized print using my Sikle or Gikle printer, and it looks amazing. I made it go all the way to the edge just to, I don't know, just for maximal impact, and I'm obsessed with how it looks. Even at A3 size, which is like double the original size, you can still see all my little texture marks, and you can see that it's made by hand. Yeah, it's got some really good texture. I'm really excited. This is the November Patreon rewards, and I made 12 stickers of each of the illustrations. So if you sign up within November, you get a double-sided mini print and a one randomly selected vinyl sticker. I am just like, yeah, so excited to send these out to you. I think this is one of my favorite rewards of the year. Yeah, anyway, that's the process of this piece. Thank you so much. Great big thank you to my patrons. As always, I adore your faces so much. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Tooroo!